Good evening. Hello, everyone. Carl Steinbeck here. What a day it was today in Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. It's been the best day for them yet. Day 18. Wonderful things happened there with the long expected arrival of an Aperture expert witness. And man, was that a doozy. It was a wonderful, awesome impeachment by Robert Alessi, and they absolutely got crushed. The government got crushed. Hank Brennan and his sneaky tactics. The jury, I've been saying the jury, from my experience in many jury trials, they do not like sneaky attorneys, especially prosecutors who are supposed to have the representation of the government and the people behind them, and they're supposed to be above board. They're supposed to be the most honorable of all people in the courtroom besides the judge. They're not supposed to do anything shady or hide the ball, any kind of dirty tricks or anything like that. But it's really coming unraveling. And I think what they screwed up on, Morsi screwed up on, was having a defense attorney suddenly become a prosecutor, even though he had been a prosecutor maybe many years before. He doesn't understand the fact that he has to have credibility. If you don't have credibility, you're going to lose, whether you're on the prosecution or defense, but especially, I would say, the prosecutor role. If you're constantly objecting to the defense, you're not trying to give them a fair trial, then what are you hiding? You tell me the jury is that stupid they can't figure out that you're trying to hide the truth for all these really pertinent, important questions. And so Mr. Accuser of the defense team being shady and underhanded, wow, was this a massive blow up in his face today by having this Sean Burgess on there. So we'll get to that first. And I just, like I've said before, if you've seen some of the things I've said on this channel and things I've that John has put out there, he's put some of my quotes out there on things like TikTok and X about what kind of a terrible prosecution case they're putting on, and it's all continues to go down that road. So I said there's 0% chance that that Karen Reed would be convicted of anything, and I said that yesterday, and now it's looking like, wow, the internet's blowing up. All these different places are that are covering the case. They're all saying like, wow, this is like really changing the whole landscape of what they thought the outcome would be. So I think there's going to be more crushing days like this for the prosecution. They've never had a good day yet. We've had 18 days. They haven't had a single good day yet. Keep that in mind, folks. And so it's probably they're just going to call just another day's worth of witnesses or two, and I think they're going to be done easily this week, and probably by Wednesday. And I think that we have the defense that hasn't even put on their case yet, and they haven't got a single day win yet. So I think with this Aperture guy being burned up in smoke today, and then you got his boss, which is going to be coming on probably next. He's probably going to be our next witness. Although I think I think Hank will probably put in some more Karen clips of her talking to media to try to soften the blow. But the fact that Aperture has got this guy that we had on the stand today, and then that's their other key witness, a biomechanical engineer that's going to come on, Welcher. So yeah, it was a blitzkrieg and a bloodbath, as you're saying here, blitzkrieg. So, and yeah, you can even sort of feel sorry for the guy, but he let this thing go on for so long. That's the other countervailing thing, is that he had this fraudulent thing on his resume that that really blew up in their face. Kristen Davis, that's what I've been saying. You can't gaslight a jury. I mean, if you really think these young people are that brain dead stupid that they can't pick up that you're hiding the ball, really, do you think you can win a case like that? I mean, has he won any defense case doing that? And then you can think you can roll over and do these defense objection tactics, and then the judge sustaining all that stuff. So trust me, this jury knows that the prosecutor and the judge, you can't trust them. And if you can't trust them, they're going to be siding with Karen and the defense team for looking for the truth. Okay? And every time there's an objection sustained. They know, the jury knows the pattern. They know the routine, and it's another indicator that there's a cover up going on in Norfolk County. Okay, so spouting all that self-righteous dribble about how the defense is such a bunch of slime balls and all that kind of stuff, and you've been running this kind of dirty operation here. Wow. So what we're going to do here tonight, sort of the same routine. I do have the channel 25 here. We're going to cover that, but so we heard first from Nicholas Bradford. He's a DNA expert for Bodie Technologies in Virginia, and then next we had from the same Bodie Technologies another senior DNA analyst, Carl Mayasako. And these we're going to get through really quick, and then we're going to get right to Shannon Burgess. Okay, so stay tuned. Then we'll get to this wonderful cross. Yeah, it was. I wonder what all these anti-Karen Reed folks are talking about today. They're just going to say, "Oh, it was just no big deal. It's no big deal." They're going to keep trying to gaslight themselves and others. So, all right. So let's go ahead and jump to the cross-examination. That's already 43 minutes in.
I'm not personally signed off in mitochondria. We don't do quite enough testing to have everyone signed off in all the different technologies.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions now.
All right. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. A couple quick questions. You mentioned, Mr. Bradford, a quantification related to.
Okay, I'm Mosaic Mind. I just want to tell you, they left a cop on the jury. And if you leave a cop or law enforcement on the jury, granted he wasn't an active cop, but he's going to tell them everything he wants them to believe. So he had preconceived biases and prejudices against the defense for the cops. So he was able to bamboozle the whole jury. Okay, that can easily happen. I don't know why the defense messed up and allowed this guy to stay on, and then the judge picks him as a foreman. So it was basically set up, and you combine that with bad jury instructions. They didn't know they could do an acquittal. But even with the cop on the as a foreman, you could not have. There was no vote to convict on the second-degree murder charge. So anyway, I don't always compare it to the last jury. Okay, this is a whole new jury. It's a whole new case, and the government is never had it this bad day after day after day. I mean, Lally did a way better job than this hired gun for the prosecution, this Brennan.
Both Yuri Buchanan and a known sample from former trooper Michael Proctor. Can we go over? I'm going to ask you about the sample related to Michael Proctor. Yeah. I think I heard you say 1 in 76,000, correct?
Yes.
Describe that one more time for the jurors. When you quantify that profile as it compares to the population of the.
So what happened was this. I should just highlight this Nicholas Bradford. Basically, what he said was he tested an extract from the state police there from the passenger side taillight, a single hair on the Lexus, and a taillight DNA sample, 2 reference samples, and a reference profile. Was given buccal swabs from Yuri Buchanan and Michael Proctor, known blood of standard of John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe could not be excluded from the taillight mixture, okay? So there's a statistically high likelihood that John O'Keefe is included in the mixture of 3, which would be 740 non-nillion, which is 30 zeros behind it, times more likely to include John O'Keefe and 2 unknown males rather than 3 unknown unrelated individuals. So it's really high statistical probability that's probably somebody that's an O'Keefe. All right, so here's the cross on that.
Earth, for instance. What does that mean? What's the significance of 1 in 76,000?
Yes. So you need to be very careful when we're talking about statistics, because if we start to introduce different analogies to try to describe them, they start to go off the rails, and we're describing things that are not actually described in the statistic. So it makes a lot of sense to compare that to the population of the Earth, for example. However, what we're talking about here are the relative likelihoods of those two different explanations of the evidence profile. So like I said, in this case, it's 76,000 times more likely that we would observe that evidence profile if it were 3 unknown unrelated individuals, as opposed to Michael Proctor and then 2 unknown unrelated individuals.
And sometimes, Mr. Bradford, we get numbers that are just sort of mind-boggling. You said 30 zeros. What is that number again?
Non-alien.
Non-alien?
Non-alien, yes.
Y'all literally in your job, like, almost have to make up new numbers. Non-alien, none of us have ever heard of that. That's 1 followed by 30 zeros, correct?
Correct.
As opposed to 76,000, which is 76 followed by 3 zeros.
Yes.
Much smaller number by factors of a non-million, nearly, correct?
Correct.
So when you say that there is strong support for the exclusion of Michael Proctor in that DNA sample, you're not suggesting that he's completely excluded as a potential contributor.
Well, no. What I'm suggesting is what the numbers state, so
Right.
that it's 76,000 times more likely that it were 3 unknown unrelated individuals versus Michael Proctor and 2 unknown unrelated individuals.
Understood. So you're not excluding him. You're simply saying statistically there's strong support for exclusion, but he's not excluded as a contributor. Is that right?
I am saying that there's strong support for exclusion, yes.
Understood. With regard to that taillight sample, you were asked to compare known samples to that taillight sample, the known samples being State Trooper Yuri Buchanek and former Trooper Michael Proctor. Those two.
Well, I'm not surprised. Whatever they say, it's another day of propaganda from court TV.
Known samples, correct?
Correct.
Were you asked to compare a known sample from a person by the name of Brian Higgins?
No.
Were you asked to compare a known sample from a person by the name of Brian Albert?
No.
Yeah, I want to make sure I capture that hand signal. If anybody knows what timestamp that is, I'm on the Boston News 25. If you could send an alert, please.
Were you asked to compare a known sample from a person named Kevin Albert?
No.
Were you asked to compare a known sample from a person by the name of former Chief Kenneth Berkowitz?
No.
Thanks.
I mean, Alessi being a defense counsel in this case, defense counsel can have sort of a sleazy, slimy type of reputation as lawyers. And they do have a lot of guilty clients they got to represent. But you know what? The bottom line is they're like it's a legal chessboard. It's part of our constitutional rights. And you don't want to have what's going on here, which is that people are railroaded. And it's even worse to have the innocent railroaded than the guilty. But you don't want to see anybody railroad and denied due process. But that's what you see here in this courtroom.
Oh, I have that.
Okay, thank you. There's Mr. Lally, any follow-up?
No.
All right, you are all set. You all set,
All right.
Okay. There's-
Okay, and then next we have this Miyasako guy from the same company. He did the mitochondrial DNA of the testing of the hair. He concluded that John O'Keefe or his maternal relatives could not be excluded. And then it was very short testimony here. And we jump to 114, 18.
So it's the 99 with 95% confidence, 99.985% of the population. So the majority of the population could be excluded. However, with John O'Keefe and his maternal relatives, they could not.
Thank you, sir.
So John O'Keefe and his maternal relatives could not be excluded.
I have nothing further on.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Miyasaka.
Good morning.
A couple of quick questions. mitochondrial DNA, as you've explained, is different than autosomal DNA in pretty significant ways, correct?
Correct.
What we think of as traditional nuclear DNA, that's autosomal DNA. That's the DNA that we derive from mom and dad, comes down to the child, correct?
Correct.
Mitochondrial DNA, by contrast, is simply the maternal line, excluding the dads, correct?
Correct.
So my mitochondrial DNA has nothing to do with my father, everything to do with my mother. Is that right?
Yeah, mitochondrial DNA gets inherited from the mom to child.
Okay, so a male like John O'Keefe, for instance, the known sample that you were working with,
All right, don't bother me. Send me the timestamp.
there's the exact
I just got it from Leslie, so thanks.
same mitochondrial DNA as, for instance, his mother, correct?
Correct. His mom and any other maternally related individuals.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, and that's my next question. Stop being smarter than me. It's going to be a tough task. It's also the exact same mitochondrial DNA for his grandmother, right?
Correct.
And let's move the lineage off the tree trunk, and move it onto branches. For instance, if his mother had 2 children, John and a sister, his sister would also have the exact same mitochondrial DNA, correct?
Correct.
And now, staying on that branch of the tree, going out to a leaf, if his sister had children, those children would have the exact same mitochondrial DNA.
Correct.
So another way of saying that, his maternal niece, his maternal nephew would have the identical mitochondrial DNA as John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you indicated that John O'Keefe is included in the population of those who match that profile, that does not mean that you're determining that the hair that you analyzed came from John O'Keefe, does it?
No, with mitochondrial DNA analysis, it's not unique to individual. Compared to traditional STRs or short-chain repeat, that could be unique to individual, but with mitochondrial DNA, it's not unique to individual, but more so a maternal lineage.
All right, so Mr. Miyasako, very importantly, you're not sitting here saying that hair belonged to John O'Keefe.
I'm saying that the hair sample on John O'Keefe cannot be excluded, as well as his maternal relatives.
So we're speaking in negatives. I want to speak in a positive.
Yeah, I've been on Julie Grant's opening statements a number of times, and it was about the Adelsons, and another case they asked me to cover, the one I mentioned on short notice. They asked me if I'd cover for that. And so, yeah, and then this case here, the kind of stuff she's saying is very, very troubling. And it's not accurate, like you're saying.
You are not saying that John O'Keefe, that hair belonged to John O'Keefe, are you? Yes or no?
Sustained.
Are you suggesting to these jurors that the hair that you analyzed belonged to John O'Keefe?
Sustained.
Are you telling the jurors, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that the hair that you analyzed belonged to John O'Keefe?
Objection. I mean, why is this stuff being objected? It's just so nauseatingly disgusting.
Sure.
All right, so really, you can't mention names of who it could be. That's what this comes down to. And you got to have a sidebar, all because of your atrocious rulings. Unbelievable. I just never seen anything this incompetent and.
You're not saying that the hair belonged to John O'Keefe, correct? That's not what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, based on the genetic data obtained from the hair sample and the genetic data obtained from the known reference sample of John O'Keefe, I could not exclude John O'Keefe as being a possible source of the hair sample. In addition, all maternally related individuals could not be excluded as being a source of the hair sample.
Another way of saying that, Mr. Miyasako, is to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, you cannot say that hair belonged to John O'Keefe.
That's what I'm saying, guys. I think I'm going to talk about Friday about those that have been saying what a great job he's doing, Hank Brennan, and who would have thought that Lally looks like the more experienced of the two attorneys, and Trooper Paul, you compare to Burgess, yeah, wow.
O'Keefe specifically, can you? Yes or no?
No, with mitochondrial DNA, you can't
Okay.
say that it is per se an individual person. So it's more so the maternal line.
Because the hair could have come from his mom, it could have come from his maternal nephew, or anybody in his maternal line, correct?
Correct. If
Okay.
they also had access to that stuff, then yeah.
For instance, access to that stuff, meaning if his maternal nephew lived in the home with him, where the SUV was stored, it's just as reasonable if the hair came from him.
There's John
Correct.
O'Keefe's mom.
Sustained.
Okay, her making all those kind of eye rolls, stuff like that. Then why isn't the defense paying attention to that? She should be, lectured by the judge and said, one more time we see that. But of course, this judge isn't concerned about inappropriate behavior in a courtroom like that.
Your analysis does not tell us when the hair got to where it was found, correct?
Correct.
Your analysis does not tell us how the hair got to where it was found, correct?
Correct.
And mitochondrial DNA does not reveal anything about the hair's color or age or texture, nothing like that.
Not on the analysis that we performed.
Okay. So for all you know, that hair could have been placed where it was found by somebody else.
Sustained.
You're not telling this jury how the hair got where it was ultimately found and recovered, correct?
Correct. Our testing is just based on the evidence provided to us and the comparisons done between the two different evidence.
And in short, you can't say that the hair specifically came from John O'Keefe either, can you?
With mitochondrial DNA, I can't say that it is specific to an individual.
Okay, including John O'Keefe.
In this instance, John O'Keefe's profile was consistent with the hair sample.
That's not what my question was, Mr. Miyasako. We can go round and round. I realize that you're saying it's consistent, but it's also consistent with his nephew, right?
Correct. I can't exclude maternal relatives because mitochondrial DNA is not specific to individual, but just the maternal line.
Right. So you're not saying it was John O'Keefe's hair?
I can't say whether it is, but the profile obtained from John O'Keefe is consistent with that.
See, it's like he's told, do not back off your answer. Do not concede anything defense says. Just repeat the same story over and over again, and I will be objecting. And so just don't back off your original answer.
Hair sample,
You're not
but
saying it's John
Mr.
O'Keefe.
Jackson. Mr. Jackson. Let's move on.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, move on. Like, you're wasting the court's time, and yet the prosecutor can just absolutely waste everyone's time in the courtroom with all these objections, all these sidebars, because they don't have a court of law there. It's a court of injustice.
The reason you can't say that it's John O'Keefe's hair is because it also matches everybody in his maternal line. That's what we're getting down to, correct?
yeah, with mitochondrial DNA, again, it's not unique to an individual, but their maternal lineage.
And if his maternal nephew lived in the same residence and had access to the same SUV, couldn't exclude him either, right?
Sustained.
So in sum, in short,
Garbage.
Mr. Miyasako, you cannot tell this jury when the hair got to where it was, correct?
Sustained.
You can't tell this jury how the hair got to where it was found, correct?
Sustained.
And you certainly cannot tell the jury that the hair belonged to John, right?
Sustained.
See, you just got to keep asking questions anyway, because this is a kangaroo court of hiding the ball from the jurors. So that's what this is about. Hide the truth. That's the only way corruption wins. All right. So
I think we've got it. Thanks, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally, anything?
Can any of y'all imagine sitting there as a juror listening to this absolute despicable conduct by the prosecutor, and then these rubber stamping rulings by the court? This is so blatantly biased and prejudicial against the defense. There's no justice here that the court is concerned about at all from their rulings. All right, on the redirect, Lally just restated his conclusion that John O'Keefe can't be excluded from the hair sample profile, and then on recross, Jackson said you can't exclude John O'Keefe's maternal relatives again. So I don't need to rehash that. Let's go ahead and go straight to Shannon Burgess for the most exciting and dynamic part of this whole trial so far.
Who is the Commonwealth's next witness?
Commonwealth's next witness is Shannon Burgess.
Okay.
I bet you anything the prosecution is looking to see which jurors are the most visibly disturbed by their conduct, and they're probably taking notes to figure out, is there a way we can find something to get them kicked off the jury? We have class.
So you're going to step up. Mr. Clerk, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jurors, spell your last name for the court reporter?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Shannon Burgess, last name Burgess.
Mr. Burgess, what do you do for a profession?
Sure. So I'm a digital forensics examiner. So I investigate digital devices to see what evidence they may record or hold.
Do you specialize in any type of forensic analysis?
Sure. So digital forensics is kind of a broad field, but I do specialize in vehicle forensics and cell phone forensics.
How long have you been a digital forensic analyst for?
Sure. So I've been a digital forensic analyst for approximately 10 years.
Before you were a digital forensic analyst, what type of work did you do?
Sure. So before I was a digital forensics analyst, I was working in the automotive manufacturing field, specifically related to automotive presses and industrial robotics.
I want to talk to you about some of your experience in digital forensic. Did you receive any certifications in digital forensics?
I did. I've received several certifications, one being what's called GIAC, Advanced Smartphone Forensics. Another from Celebrite, a company named Celebrite, and Certified Mobile Examiner, and then certifications from Magnet Forensics as well.
Is Magnet a company that also includes Axiom?
Yes, Magnet is a company that produces the software known as Axiom.
In addition to your certifications, how many hours of specialized training approximately have you had in digital forensics?
Sure. So approximately, over the last 10 years, I've had around 700 hours of training, including courses and conference attendance in digital forensics.
In addition to your training and your study, do you have experience over the 10 years? Have you,
Training and study. When I heard this today, I was just thinking, I'd seen his resume a couple weeks ago and I'd not refreshed it since then, but I'm thinking, what about his academic credentials?
involved yourself in many cases regarding
I mean, on his resume, he says he has a bachelor's and associate's degree. So why wouldn't you bring that out, Hank, Brennan?
forensics found from a motor vehicle?
Yes, I have.
Can you give a general estimate of how many cases you've worked on?
Oh, not off the top of my head, I couldn't. But it's been numerous.
You said that you specialize in mobile phones and digital forensics in motor vehicles.
That is correct.
Do you teach seminars on those issues?
I do. I teach seminars and presentations specifically in those disciplines.
Who are some of the audiences that you teach to?
Sure. So it ranges from attorneys to engineers that specialize in accident reconstruction to police agencies such as Interpol, which is a global police organization.
Have you testified as an expert in digital forensics in court before?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever testified as an expert regarding digital forensics in state courts?
Yes, I have.
And could you share with us those state courts?
Sure. So those state courts would be Oregon, Texas, Arkansas, New Mexico, and those would be the ones in the last 4 years that I can recall off the top of my head.
Have you testified as an expert in digital forensics in federal courts before?
No, just in state courts.
Have you testified in state courts in civil cases?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified for plaintiffs in civil cases?
I have testified for plaintiffs and defense in civil cases.
And have you testified in criminal cases before?
It's the worst voice I've ever heard in a court of law.
I have testified in criminal cases as well.
Have you testified for the prosecution before?
I have. I have testified for the prosecution as well as the defense.
Does the data change regardless of who you testify for?
No, it does not.
Look at his face,
Where are
how
you
red it is
presently
right now,
employed, Mr.
but then
Burgess?
compare it to
Sure.
when
So I'm
cross-examination.
presently employed with a company known as Aperture, and I'm located in their Dallas office.
Is Aperture a company that has offices outside of Texas?
Sure. So Aperture is a company across the country. So they've got a number of locations and offices, and they offer a number of service lines specifically related to forensics.
Do you ever work on different cases or scenarios with people in the Texas office?
Yes, I do. Sure. Go ahead.
Do you ever work with other employees of Aperture outside of the Texas office?
Yes. So I do occasionally.
That's what I'm saying. It was automatically a highlight flag, and I'll talk about what that means later.
Corroborate with other experts in the Texas offices as well as the other offices across the country.
In this case, was there another professional who worked with Aperture that was related to this case that you talked to?
There was.
And who was that?
That would be Dr. Judson Welcher.
Okay,
Is Dr. Welcher's,
that's the vice president, and that's the guy that this guy works for, and they've been conferring on this case together.
profession and job the same as yours?
No, it is not.
What's the difference between what you do and what Dr. Judd Welcher does?
Sure. So what I do is investigate digital devices that can range from cell phones to vehicle modules to computer systems. What Dr. Welcher does is specifically related to accident reconstruction
Okay,
and
so there, I just want to show this beginning part here. So he does digital device like cell phones, vehicle modules, and computer systems. Dr. Welcher does accident reconstruction and biomechanics. This guy's published 2 papers, one about damaged modules. He looked at vehicle modules, looking for user data in a hexadecimal format or files where the user data was contained. He's specifically looking for the ignition events, power on events, as well as other data. He was also looking for 2 text stream events within the Lexus software. One is a 3-point turn maneuver and the other was backing maneuver. He says the user data was missing from the initial download. when the Lexus circuit board was heated, some chips fell off because the solder melted and others got shifted. And there was an SD card that was never previously studied. So he basically was blaming the circuit board overheating and had some chips fall off on the defenses expert. I forget her name. And then he noted that various power on, power off events happened, one at 12:36 a.m. to 12:42 a.m., and another one at 5:07:46 a.m. to 5:46:20 a.m. Leaving and returning to John O'Keefe's house was the second one. And then he said clock variances among devices can be up to 60 seconds. This is an accepted condition in this industry. And he describes syncing a clock between two devices. And then he says John's iPhone was recording timestamps, GPS position, speed, and heading. And he was also using the Waze, spelled W-A-Z-E, app for navigation. Based on John's phone data, there was a 3-point turn from 12:23:59 to 12:24:07. However, the Lexus text stream data indicated a 3-point turn ended at 12:23:38. So in interpreting the data, they adjusted the Lexus iClock to the iPhone. In his expert opinion, quote unquote, the time variance between the Lexus and John O'Keefe's phone was between 21 and 29 seconds. And then we're going to, okay, so that's the gist of his direct summarized there. Now let's jump to 438, where the cross starts. And this is what the best part of the whole trial so far.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Burgess.
Good afternoon.
You spell your first name Shannon with one N. Do I have that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You describe yourself as
I think he just said one end because he wanted to clarify they got the right guy and just to show that it's a unique spelling of that name.
a digital forensic examiner, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You use the term forensics often in your analysis.
Yes, I do.
And would you agree that generally the accepted definition of forensics is something that relates to, that's used in, and is suitable for a court of law?
Yes, I would.
And so when you're working in forensics, even in your office, you understand that eventually it's very likely that whatever work you're working on is going to end up or could end up in a court of law, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned in your direct examination the scientific method, right?
Correct.
And I was pleased to hear mention of the scientific method. And I just want to cover some principles with regard to the scientific method. But before I do, I just want to see how forensics envelopes in certain items. So forensics applies scientific methods and principles to legal matters, particularly in criminal investigations, right?
Correct.
It's a fair statement.
Yes.
Thank you. And forensics are used to help lawyers in their preparation, correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
And it's used to help judges in courts of law.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's also used to help juries and jurors to understand the results of scientific tests, correct?
Correct.
So you know, and you have to presume that as you are performing your analysis, as I stated earlier, that this information is going to end up in a court of law.
Correct.
And then does that heighten sort of the analysis that you need to do and the sharpness and the accuracy, given that it's going to end up in that form?
It can, depending on context.
And is the primary goal of forensic science to uncover the truth and to provide objective evidence that can be presented in a court?
Yes, it is.
Would you generally agree that the work of forensic science, including the work that you do, is intended to be used in court because scientific evidence can be very powerful and therefore the forensic science must be accurate?
Correct.
I'll get to that.
It must be methodical.
Correct.
There must be a method, right?
Right.
It must be detailed.
Yes.
And above all, it must be unbiased and truthful, correct?
That is correct.
Starting to get red already, really red.
And all of this, is it fair to say, distills down to reliability?
Correct.
And reliability is a desired characteristic of the forensic scientist.
Yes.
You want people to be able to rely upon your work.
Yes.
And credibility and honesty is part of reliability, and it's a fundamental component of that, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You've stated that you hold your opinions to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. You said that several times on direct, correct?
Correct.
And because the discipline of forensics involves the application of the scientific method, as you stated on direct, you therefore, of course, applied the scientific method throughout your analysis, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you agree with the following statement of the scientific method? And tell me whether, well, let me start with, you understand, you know, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST?
Yes, I am familiar. Yeah.
And would you agree with a definition of the scientific method as the systematic pursuit of knowledge involving the recognition and definition of a problem, the collection of data through observation and experimentation, analysis of the data, the formulation, evaluation, and testing of hypotheses, and where possible, the selection of a final hypothesis? I know there's a lot there, and if you like me to break any of it down, you let me know.
No, I find that generally acceptable. Yep.
And I wanted to emphasize the end, the evaluation and testing of hypotheses, and where possible, the selection of a final hypothesis. You understand what I'm meaning by hypotheses?
Yes, I do.
The scientific method is used, among other reasons, is it not, to avoid certain biases in the science process, correct?
Yes, correct.
Right. So the method is trying to prevent a scientist, not cultural bias, but scientific bias, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what the American Academy of Forensic Scientists refer to as cognitive biases in science, generally?
No, I do not.
Have you heard of the...
I think it depends on what kind of office you're dealing with. And since they have folks working directly for the district attorney's office, then I think that way they don't become directly involved so much as a witness as to the interactions between their office and the expert's office or the expert themselves.
term confirmation bias?
Yes, I have heard of that term.
Have you heard of the term anchor bias in the scientific method?
I have not heard that term.
Let's start with confirmation bias. Is a fair definition, and you said you're generally familiar with that, right?
Yes, correct.
So let's start with that. That's the practice of sort of selectively gathering and interpreting evidence to confirm the scientist's belief or a belief of another, and at the same time neglecting evidence that contradicts them. Is that a fair definition of confirmation bias?
Yes.
And an example of confirmation bias is not considering alternative hypotheses once an initial hypothesis has been selected, even though the data and other information might contradict the initial hypothesis. Fair statement?
Yes, that's a fair statement.
And confirmation bias, although sometimes it occurs, is intellectually and analytically antithetical to, it's opposing of the scientific method, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And it's to be avoided.
Right.
Anchor bias is, and I know you said you didn't recall it, but let me see if this triggers a recollection. If not, fair enough.
Okay.
Anchor bias is when you prioritize information and data that supports your initial impression of the evidence, even where the impressions are incorrect or it's unknown when the impression is incorrect. You sort of anchor.
That's really good points that Alessi's bringing out here, different types of bias.
Into that. Does that sound like a reasonable definition of anchor bias?
Yes, that sounds reasonable.
So biases are to be avoided in the application of scientific matters and methods because they can lead to incorrect conclusions in science, right?
Right.
And even though they're to be avoided, you called this case a homicide even before you began your alleged scientific testing. Isn't that correct?
I don't recall. Where would I have called it a homicide?
Do you recall your January 30th, 2025 report that you prepared in this case?
Yes, I do.
Do you have it with you?
I do.
Can you turn to page 4, footnote 3, please?
Yes.
Footnote, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It is page 4, footnote 3. And in page 4,
Unbelievable.
footnote 3,
How do you think this would not come out? How did this not come out in other trials? We're not there yet.
it states, I'm sorry, sir, are you there?
Yeah,
Yes, I am sorry.
It says evidence
It's getting
reviewed
better
by
now.
the defense counsel Ray O'Keefe, MV homicide. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Now, you assumed in the very beginning,
There was some kind of bad court feed this afternoon. Other channels, it was worse. So using this 25 Boston channels. So that's on the court feed here.
that Miss Reed had hit Mr. O'Keefe with her car before you began the scientific testing that you had discussed in your direct.
No, that would be incorrect.
But you did list homicide down in footnote 3, correct?
Yes, I did.
And so this report's drafted January 30th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
And the testing, I'll just give you a snapshot. Some of the testing you discussed with Mr. Brennan, that testing didn't occur until after this trial started, correct? Some of the testing you described in direct?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so that testing didn't even occur in the trial. Just assume the trial started at April 22nd. So the testing you described when you were talking about aligning clocks and GPS, that occurred after April 22nd, correct?
Correct. It did.
Now let's go on to another topic. Let's talk about professional credentials.
All right.
You know what I mean by the term credentials?
Yes, I do.
Professional credentials are important in any profession, correct?
Correct.
And they're important in your forensic examiner profession as well.
Correct.
Your forensic scientists and examiners are no different than any other professional that credentials are important. And your profession requires you to provide curriculum vitae, laying out your education, training, and background, correct?
Correct.
And it's imperative, is it not, that the information that is disseminated about your professional credentials are absolutely truthful. right?
Yes, they should be.
You say they should be. Let's continue on with that topic. You understand what's meant by the term ethics, right? Generally?
Yes, yes,
And simple ethics mandate that one is truthful about their professional credentials, correct?
correct.
Can you imagine how all the other people that work for Aperture feel after seeing this guy testify today? I mean, they're going to have to change the name of the company or something. I mean, this is that bad.
And a fundamental credential.
How would they ever be hired after this?
Is what
It's an LLC, so it's not publicly traded. I think the guy that Welcher, he's a vice president. He's the one that's going to be testifying this week still. So I think he's probably part owner of it.
type of college degree you hold, correct?
Correct.
People rely on those credentials, and the credentials are the foundation of your expert opinions and analyses, correct?
Thanks, Susie. But I've been telling folks, just give all the money that you, if you want to donate something to me, thank you so much. But please just give it to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. We're doing fine. We don't need any money. So just please help them out. But thank you.
They can be. Yes.
They can be, and they often are, correct?
Yes, they can be depending on context.
But more often than not, they're important.
Yes. Again, depending on context.
You know that not only your colleagues, but your clients, your firm clients, courts, and juries.
For an expert, you do a deep dive. That's why I don't know how this guy could skate past this many years with a bogus CV, curriculum vitae, which is a formal word for a resume.
Will rely on your CV and your credentials in order to make determinations about whether you're qualified to testify and your depth of your qualifications, correct?
Correct.
You provided the Commonwealth, the defense, and the court with your CV in this case, correct?
Correct.
If I can have a moment, Your Honor, I will
Yes.
get my first exhibits.
Yep. You're telling me that Brennan never asked about his background with his degrees, and then he just happened to not forget to ask about his degrees?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll pull that up later here on the show. Look how much redder he's getting.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen his face that red.
Your Honor, if I could have this marked as the next exhibit
For identification?
for identification at this point.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm going to have it, going to be eventually offering it into evidence, so
Okay.
they have presented to the witness.
So let's mark it for identification first.
Yep, okay.
Exhibit TT for identification. Okay.
May I present it to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you.
They really think that the jury's that stupid. That's the only reason they're pulling this off, because they think the jury's that stupid in that locale.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
I am presenting you with exhibit.
TT for identification.
I was, thank you, Your Honor. I'm learning not to talk while I'm walking backwards so Madam Court Reporter can hear me. So I'm presenting you with what is exhibit TT for identification. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
So this document appears to be my CV.
May I approach further?
Yes.
Thank you. And is that CV a document that you have prepared.
Yes, so that is a document that either I have prepared or the company Aperture has prepared.
And is that a fair and accurate document?
It appears to be.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Brennan?
Prepared.
He's trying to-
CV, a document that you have prepared.
Yes, so that is a document that either I have prepared or the company Aperture has prepared.
And is
Oh,
that a
based
fair
on what
and
you
accurate,
told them, though.
document?
He knows he's busted here because he's trying to give an out by making it sound like the company put some bogus information in there.
It appears to be.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
It appears to be a
Any
CV.
objection, Mr. Brennan?
He's already hedging
No,
the
thank you.
story here.
Yes.
And if you could just, if Your Honor, if I had the witness hold that, I have some
Hold on,
questions.
let's let it mark
Yes,
first.
Sure.
Yep.
Exhibit 183.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Burgess, you have in front of you your CV that we just spoke about, and I'd ask you please to draw your attention to the education section where underneath in red it says BGS, and then, do I read it correctly? It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama dash Birmingham, Alabama dash currently pursuing. Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Thank you, sir. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Like this mark is the next for identification only at this point. Oh, excuse me, can I have that back one, sure, Mr. Brown? Sure.
No, they've had every witness lying so
Yeah, I
far,
handed the
pretty
witness,
much,
Your Honor.
except the
Yes.
other guy.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to actually ask to have it marked for identification first,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Exhibit UU for ID.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, it's been marked, the document is Exhibit UU for identification. Could you please tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, I do recognize that.
And sir, please describe briefly what that is.
Sure. So it is a CV as well.
Thank you. I would offer it into
$500,000.
evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Brennan, any objection?
No, thank you.
Exhibit 184.
Thank you. I present it back to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, really, the prosecution's so bad and the defense has been so good on their cross-examination of the government witnesses. I am thinking that they don't need me to call anybody. I think they still will because you don't want to be that sure of yourself, but wow.
Mr. Burgess, once you've had a fair
what a hot
opportunity
mess.
to look at that, I have a question, and that question is simple. Is that your April 2025 CD?
Let me see. Yes, it appears to be.
Thank you. And when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it, when you can just pick your head up, sir, to let me know you're ready. I don't want to
Yes.
rush you, but then I have some questions.
Absolutely. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. So in those two exhibits, your two CVs in front of you, am I correct that the first one is November 2024 and the second one is April 2025?
Well, this is still going to come out on cross-examination. Well, I take that back. Yeah, the judge may have kept this kind of cross-examination out. Now I think about it, because it exposes the truth. So yeah, maybe Maybe a voir dire, this coming out of voir dire would have made it not be allowed at trial. But I think what would have happened is Leslie would not brought this up during voir dire. He would have only saved this for trial.
Let me see. Yes, that appears to be correct.
In both of those CVs, you indicate that you have not yet earned a bachelor's degree.
That is correct.
And you certainly have not earned a Bachelor of Science degree in any educational field according to those two CVs, right?
Correct.
And in fact, as you sit here today, you do not possess any bachelor's degree.
Correct.
And the reason, as you state, is because that bachelor's degree is currently pending. That's the term you use.
So I use currently pursuing.
Currently pursuing, yes. So you have a public profile that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
Yes, I do.
And it's in the form of a biography page.
Yes, I believe so.
And that biography page has your education listed.
Very possible, yes.
May I approach your on?
Yes.
Thank you. If I could have this marked, please, and once Mr. Brennan reviews it. Thank you. Your Honor, may I have this marked as next identification in order?
Okay.
Thank you.
Exhibit BB for ID.
May I hand it to the witness?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Burge has given you Exhibit BB for identification.
Okay.
You recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And indeed, that is the bio page that's published on
It's clear,
Aperture's
John.
website, correct?
That is what it appears to be, yes.
Now, I would like you, sir, to turn to page 2 of that document.
Okay.
And I'd like to turn your focus to the bottom of education heading.
All right, let's go to their website here. I'm pulling this up live right now. So let's see, how do I? So here's what we see. So the LinkedIn that he has here, look what we see now. So you can't go there. There's nothing there. His profile is now private. He completely pulled his LinkedIn off the screen there, off their website. Aperture did. So the link is, I guess the link did take us to LinkedIn, but he pulled it before today, earlier today. I think the link was no good. Now, surprisingly, his CV is still there, but look what it says here, not for expert designation. Look what it says here. Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama, bring it. So how do you have a general science in mathematics and business administration? General science, it's sort of like three different things. from UAB is what they call it for short, University of Alabama, Birmingham, so in the northern part of the state. So he's done forensically thousands of cases over 7 years. And he doesn't even have a bachelor's degree, but yet he says he does here on his CV. So that begs the question, how much of this other stuff is not accurate? So just thinking he's a speaker at industry events, published in professional publications. Okay, you're telling me he's used this at all those different locations and he's never updated it. This is like expected. It's not expected. This is 2022, right? So this is currently what they show, and they're saying he got it 4 years ago. He got his associate's degree from Hansville, Alabama in 2015. So this is like, how would a company allow this to happen? How's that even possible? In 2008, while attending college. So he's been attending college since 2008. Anyway, unbelievable. They still got this guy still up on their website. So yeah, it's really great that they have another. Let's look at the next guy that's coming here for Hank Brennan's case. If I can type. Judson Welcher. So this is the other guy they're using. He's an accident reconstruction and biomechanics engineer. So, all right, I need to share this. Here we go. So it says he has a Bachelor of Science, Cal Polytech, San Luis Obispo, and an MS from Southern Cal. Anyway, this is how did they not know about this guy? So anyway, that's the guy that we may see here tomorrow or the next day. All right, let's go back.
It states, am I correct, sir, BS, Mathematics, and Business Administration. Is that correct?
It does state that, yes.
And there is no qualification that's currently pending. It states BS in Mathematics and Business Administration, correct?
That's what it states there, yes.
And you do not have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, do you?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I remember either seeing that or hearing about that, Born a Hawkeye, you're saying he took screenshots of the LinkedIn account before it's deleted, and his name was changed on LinkedIn to Shannon B. That's why the leak didn't work from Aperture. Then it was completely deleted. Yeah, now it's gone totally private mode.
And if you click on the hyperlink for your CV on that same website, do you know where that hyperlink takes you?
No, I do not.
To any member of the public reading this, including prosecutor, a defense attorney, a judge, or a jury, that represents that you received your Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, does it not?
Objection.
That's sustained.
What? Are you kidding me? Wow. Okay, you know what? I just got to keep in mind, jurors, you get it. You see the fraud going on here, okay?
Now, if you continue on to your photograph, are you familiar with Aperture's website that speaks about you and presents you generally?
Vaguely, yes.
Vaguely.
Are you aware that Aperture has two hyperlinks, one that says CV and one says LinkedIn? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am now.
I am
And-
now. Oh, come on. Really? You've never seen that for yourself? What your links say about you on your own company's website? So you're just taking his word for it now without even having seen it beforehand?
LinkedIn is a professional networking platform designed for career and business professionals to connect, share content,
You're right.
find jobs, etc. Is that a fair description of LinkedIn?
Yes, it is.
And could we also conclude that it's a professional networking platform, especially for private sector firms like Aperture, that's used to attract clients or potential clients?
Yes, correct.
And potential clients include, for example, the Commonwealth of the state of Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
And indeed, the Commonwealth is no longer, if you will, an attracted client, but it's an actual client of Aperture and you, correct?
Correct.
And that's the status of the relationship here. Aperture is a client of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in.
Yeah, that's true. The fact is that he's on a criminal case now. It's not a money case with like insurance companies battling out. This is like somebody can go to prison for life and you clown around and take your career as a joke and you're trying to prop yourself up as being an accomplished expert with a bachelor's degree.
In this case, right?
Correct.
So is it fair to say that your CV, especially when it's published on a LinkedIn or published on a website, is something that is published to intend to have, especially if you're in the private sector, have clients view and retain your services? That's a hope and an expectation, correct?
Yes, that is part of it.
Now, when you look at that document, when you click on, if you were to be in your office, and let's see if you're familiar with this, you click on your LinkedIn on Aperture's page, that would ordinarily take you directly to your professional LinkedIn account, correct? Isn't that what the links are there for?
Yes, I would expect so.
Are you notified when someone electronically accesses your LinkedIn account?
Not accesses, no. Are you referring to viewing?
Yes, that's a better
sorry,
verb,
yeah.
viewing. Yes.
Yes.
So you're notified. Were you notified within the last 72 hours that someone from the defense accessed your publicly available or viewed your publicly available LinkedIn account?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that within the last 72 hours, that hyperlink on Aperture's official website was disabled?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that now if you try to go on that link, that you can't, that it's disabled?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Who informed him and or Aperture that there's an issue on your credibility that's going to get blown wide open on this case when you testify?
Do you know whether anyone from Aperture directed someone within Aperture to disable your LinkedIn account within the last 72 hours?
No, I'm not.
Have you spoken to anybody at Aperture about your LinkedIn account?
No, I have not.
Yeah, right. So they just suddenly realized you've been scamming your customers for all these years, and so they're blocking that link.
Yep. Your Honor, I'd like to move EB into evidence at this time, please.
Okay, any objection?
I can just see it. It's,
This one.
that's what I presented to you.
No objection.
Thanks, Lacey, but I've never asked anybody to subscribe. I just don't think that's a concern of mine, but thanks for your support.
Exhibit 185.
Yeah, it's going to keep coming, folks. That's what I've been saying. I'm just talking from my experience on criminal cases. When you got competent counsel, the truth eventually comes out, and it comes out in very strong, profound ways many times. And the more you dig into the details, the more you find the truth. And that's why Hank is objecting, because the devil's in the details, and he's in a straitjacket of sorts with the devil right now, because he's trying to keep the truth out. But even though the judge is there, always throwing him a lifeline, trying to bail him out and protect the Commonwealth's frauds, evidence coming before this jury, the bottom line is the jury's going to get it. I just have to have faith and trust and confidence that they can't be that far off than all the jurors that I've argued with over several decades, multiple decades. So I think that they get it. I think it's going excellent. And who would have thought this case would be turning out as good as it has this far on into day 18? They've been killing the government, the prosecution, every single day.
We are done with those. So
Sure.
if I could ask those back to you. we can get
Absolutely.
court reporter. Your Honor, could I have the next one marked?
Yeah, he's lying about this stuff, saying, "Oh, I just know now." Of course, you know what's on there.
For identification at this point.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. What a double standard hypocrisy this whole charade is, this farce. The way these top-notch, best in the world class, I'd call them world class. There's none finer than Arca. And the way they got just talked to like filthy dogs by this Brennan guy. And then he has a nerve and gall and audacity to put a guy like this up there. He doesn't dare ask him about his education. And he really thought defense wouldn't do some inquiry on his education. Yeah, really. No, Trooper Paul, he's like a saint, because he he was just pushed into that position. He wasn't qualified. He only has an associate's as well. And I think he felt pressure to go along with his crazy story. But I think otherwise he would have been fired as a cop. So he was doing that to salvage his career, which is still not respectable and honorable. But this guy here pumping up your resume falsely like this, and you got people's lives on the line.
WW.
May I present to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess, I presented to you what is marked as Exhibit WW for identification. I'd ask that you take a look at it, take a fair amount of time, and then if you could, sir, pick your head up so I could see that you're ready.
Sure.
Yeah, they'll come up with something crazy.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, it appears to be a screenshot of my LinkedIn account.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
Yeah, if he's mostly doing civil cases on direct, it was brought out that he's mostly, I think it was on direct. He mostly does civil cases, so insurance type cases. How many of those actually go to trial and where he has to testify 1,000 times? So that's 100 cases a year. And so he's testifying. I guess he could mean by deposition as well. So he's testifying that much per year. That does seem highly unlikely. Yeah, we're going to get to this here, Blitzkrieg.
Right. Can I see you at sidebar with you?
Yeah, so we're going to get to that. When did Hank find out about this guy's changed report? Let me jump ahead here.
May I approach your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Burgess, I am presenting to you what has been marked as Exhibit WW for identification. That is.
No, I don't have any restrictions. You can chat even if you're not subscribed.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of your personal LinkedIn page? If you could take a moment to take a look at it.
Sure.
Mr. Lewis, I'm going to ask you to step back so all the jurors can see the
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Yes, it does with a error on page 2 regarding education.
Right, and we're going to get to that.
Sure.
But this is you recognize this as a fair and accurate depiction of your personal LinkedIn page with the exception of what you just mentioned, correct?
Correct.
Did you draft that document that's represented as Exhibit WW?
I have drafted that over time, yes.
And when was the last time you viewed that document on your LinkedIn page?
I don't typically view the profile page, so it would have been, I could not tell you how long it's been.
Do you have any reason to believe that that Exhibit WW is not on your LinkedIn page online as we sit here today?
No, I don't.
Your Honor, I move Exhibit WW into evidence.
No objection.
I think that's the LinkedIn printout, the screenshot showing that you can't get access to that now. Or is it the other one that was before it got pulled? So I'm not sure about that. I wish they would have presented it to the jury and they would have shown it on the screen.
Exhibit 186.
Thank you.
I would like to turn your attention to your the printout of your personal LinkedIn page and go right to the second page, bottom.
Yep.
And under education, it says University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's got a little UAB acronym there. And it says Bachelor of Science, B period, S period, comma, Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation, 2016-2018. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, I do.
That's not correct, is it?
No, it's not correct.
And you do not hold a BS in a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, do you?
I do not. And that would have been at that time an expected graduation date?
So it would be expected, you state.
Correct.
From what year? 2022?
It would be another word for, another word currently pursuing? Is that similar to expecting?
Sure, that could be similar.
But you know how to put currently pursuing down, don't you, sir? Because you did it on the first few CVs, but you don't have it on your LinkedIn page. Am I correct?
Correct. That's probably because obviously that has not been updated in quite some time.
And you said you get notifications when people access your LinkedIn page, correct?
I get selective notifications when people view my LinkedIn page.
So you know people are looking at your LinkedIn page. You know people are looking at your education. And you have down here 2016 to 2018. So that time period is 7 years old from 2018, yet you use the 2016 to 2018 on your LinkedIn page, correct?
Correct.
So he's even fudging the numbers because we just saw he says he graduated in 2022.
With the caveat that my understanding is people look at your post, not specifically the profile information.
Oh, so you believe you know.
So that's his out for the LinkedIn fraudulent representation that he doesn't think people are going to look at that.
My understanding is people look at your post, not specifically the profile information.
Oh, so you believe you know apparently when people are looking at it and what they look at?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally.
Generally.
Correct.
But you don't know who's looking at the education section on your LinkedIn page and relying upon what is represented here, that you have a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Not from the LinkedIn page.
So that's wow, that's a different degree now.
Yeah, just independently of the LinkedIn page, yes.
So pick a degree, stick it on your resume whenever it's convenient.
And as you sit here today, that page is still live on your LinkedIn, correct?
Correct.
Wow, that is bad.
So a key aspect of your credentials, whether or not you...
Can you imagine if you had ARCA witnesses with this kind of trumped up false academic degree certifications on their CV? how Brennan would just be launching and screaming and carrying on for hours.
You have obtained a Bachelor of Science is incorrect in more than one document that I've presented here today, correct?
No, I would not agree with that.
Okay, LinkedIn, is that maybe it's not a document, it's a website. So what about the websites as well?
Well, it's incorrect in this one, correct?
Correct.
And the one previously to that, there's two documents that have you listed. This LinkedIn, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. So there's two documents, is there not, sir? There's, may I?
Sure.
And my report, if I can have the previous one in evidence? So if you could hold that, this one, sir, and I'm going to get that if I could from you, thank you. And exhibit 185 that's in evidence, if you can turn to the second page. So if you look at each of those state that you have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. So there are two documents about your credentials that are inaccurate, correct?
Yes, they have errors. Yes, that is correct.
May I have those back,
Sure.
sir?
Yep, both.
Yes, please.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, all of them they're fraudulent.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have the next document marked for identification
show this
only at this point. We have this marked as the next for identification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Exhibit XX for ID.
You hand it to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. Handing the witness exhibit XX for identification.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
She's not.
So it appears to be a CV. Yes.
You say it.
She's not helping. She's probably mad at Hank. Why the heck would you call a guy with these credentials? How in the world did this happen? Do you realize that you just really tanked your case now?
Appears to be a CV. Can you describe that any further?
Yes.
An expert with fraudulent credentials. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can ask for a better expert for the defense. I mean, this is like dynamite golden stuff. I've never seen anything this awesome from any kind of expert for impeachment evidence.
So it's a copy of my CV.
Is that a CV you prepared, sir?
It would have been prepared by myself or Aperture. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end.
Sorry, it would have been prepared by myself or Aperture. Yes.
Yourself or Aperture?
Correct.
But you had, at a minimum, a role in preparing that, did you not?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, and you would have reviewed that because it's about.
So he's throwing his staff under the bus. Yeah, either me or them. Come on, really? That's another lie.
About you before it would have been used by Aperture, correct?
More than likely, yes.
You wouldn't let somebody put a CV up and out to the public without you reviewing it, would you, sir?
So there are other staff members that do review and update CVs.
But you're the only one who's going to know whether what's on it is accurate or not, correct?
Unless I explain that to them, yes.
So
how convenient. You know that these degrees are put on your CV and they're there day after day after day, year after year after year, and you don't do anything to shut it down, and you've never once noticed that?
either way, either you prepared it yourself or you interacted with somebody and explained it and collaborated with them to make sure it was right to the best of your ability, correct?
Correct.
If you can look at the highlighted portion, sir, under education.
There's no well, I understand
sorry.
what you're talking about. There's no highlighted.
I'm
portion.
sorry, let's strike that. If you look under education, the first line, it says in the right underneath BGS. Do you see that, sir?
I do, yes.
And then to the right, it says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama - Birmingham, Alabama, 2022. Did I read that correct?
Yes, you did.
And up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a photograph.
Yes, there is.
Is that you, sir, in the photograph?
Yes, it is.
And in the spelling of your name, Shannon, that's with one N, correct?
Correct, yes.
And so that is not only you in the photograph, that's the spelling of your name with one N, correct?
Correct.
And
That's why I asked the spelling in the beginning, how to spell his first name.
that's the correct spelling of your first name with one N, correct?
Yes, it
So
is.
that's definitely you represented in this document, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now let's look at the first line that relates to education. It states Bachelors of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, correct?
That is what it states, yes.
And the date is 2022, correct?
Correct.
So this document represents that you received your Bachelor's of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration in 2022, correct?
That is what it states, but there are a number of errors in that, yes.
Correct. So let's go on. So this is the third example. Am I correct, sir? Well, let me, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I offer Exhibit XX into evidence.
No objection.
Maybe Hank's getting it now that objecting to all this stuff and you're hiding the truth. He's got to be just sinking in his chair right now, realizing how bad it keeps getting. It keeps getting worse and worse. And this is just an absolute lead bomb that crashed into the courtroom here.
Exhibit 187.
I mean, just the sloppiness that this guy has. You can't even keep your resumes, a fraudulent resume, even tracking properly. Like you're saying, Leslie B, his CV says 2018 is when he got it, yet LinkedIn says 2022. Really? You're that sloppy in your work?
Sir, is Exhibit 187 a CV that is linked directly from Aperture's website?
I do not know. I would have to look and check that.
So as you sit here today, you are not able to state whether that CV is linked directly from Aperture's website?
Correct.
So this is a third example of a document that incorrectly states that you have a Bachelor of Science when you do not possess that degree, correct?
It has errors or outdated information, correct?
Well, when you say outdated, how is it that you can call a date outdated next to something that you don't possess?
I don't understand your question.
Well, you just used the phrase either incorrect or outdated. I'm trying to understand your statement that it's...
Meaning he didn't update the new date of his graduation, right?
Sure. So
outdated. Isn't it either you have a Bachelor of Science degree or you don't? Is it?
I have represented I do not have a bachelor's degree.
Correct. But in here, it's represented that you do, correct?
Yes, it is
All
an
right.
error, yes.
So
Oh,
are you,
God.
let's look at what the name is that
Can you imagine this guy's called by a Commonwealth assistant DA to represent truth and justice, dignity and honor and respect, integrity, all that thing all the things that are supposed to be surrounding the Commonwealth's finest lawyers, and this is what they present to try to convict somebody.
That are on these documents says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. Do you see that, sir?
I do.
Are you?
So Hank, did he look at his constantly evolving dates and when he graduated and not think this guy has got huge issues? Keep in mind, Hank leaves no detail unturned, no stone unturned to find details. So
aware that there's no degree at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, called a Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration?
Yes, I am. And that is one of the errors I identified.
So you would agree that there's not even a degree called Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration offered at the University of Alabama, correct?
Correct. That should be Bachelor of General Studies with minor in Mathematics and Business Administration.
wow. So he embellished even the degree program he's supposedly pursuing, and it doesn't even exist. The one that he has on his CV. Unreal.
And what you just articulated, you do not possess as you sit here today, correct?
That is correct.
What you possess is an associate's degree, correct?
Correct.
And when did you obtain that associate's degree?
So that would have been 2015.
Are you familiar with the term mendacity?
I am not.
That's another word for like a liar, like a habitual liar. An emboldened liar.
Are you familiar with a CV of 2015?
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have this marked as the next exhibit for identification, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Why?
That's what it looks like. Is that Jessica Hyde probably recommended him to Hank.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
No, I do not recognize this document.
May I put your
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you believe that? Good point, Stevie Howell.
Do you recall ever pursuing, may I stand here and ask you?
That cruel judge made Arca come up there for this berating, bashing hate fest of Hank Brennan, and this is the guy that Hank has as a counterweight.
Questions, Your Honor?
Okay.
Thank
Can he see the document as well, or do you have a copy for him?
He can see it as well, Your Honor.
Okay. I was just wondering the purpose
Yeah, sure.
and just step back.
Yes,
just a little.
yep. Sir, do you recall when you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree of any kind?
Sure, I do. Around 2008.
So you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science for the first time in 2008, correct?
Correct.
If I did the math correctly, sir, you've been pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree for 17 years, correct?
That is correct.
And you have not obtained it as you sit here today.
That is correct.
And yet there are the various documents that we've seen that state that you have obtained the Bachelor of Science, correct?
Again, with errors or misinterpretation. Yes.
Errors or misinterpretation?
Errors and misinterpretation. Really? He's on top of the fraud resume now. He's trying to.
That are you
Make it out.
stating, but you would agree those errors or misinterpretation have been in existence for some time, correct?
Yes, I'm being
And-
made aware of them now. Yes.
Yeah, and they haven't been corrected for some time, correct?
Correct.
You work for insurance companies, correct?
I do work for insurance companies in addition to law firms. Yes.
But you work for insurance companies, correct?
Yes. Sometimes. Yes.
Well, you state that right in your report in this case, don't you, sir? That you work for insurance companies?
Again, I do work for insurance companies. Yes.
And what role do you play in working for insurance companies? You working for them, or are you working for the policyholders that have paid premiums or are making a claim to try to get money from an insurance company? Which role do you have? Objection.
I'll allow that.
So I work for the insurance company themselves.
And in your work for the insurance company, has any of that work related to denying claims to insurance? Objection.
Why don't I see you on this, Mr. Lassie?
Sure.
Yeah. See, because he's been scamming. That's what the assertion by Leslie is. You've been basically using false credentials that impacts how it shakes out for people like those that are on the jury here. So he doesn't mind scamming the general public as well, those that are being wrongfully treated by their insurance companies. So, of course, another lifeline here. I was hoping that that this material misrepresentation on his degrees or his degree, his evolving degree, would have been brought up in terms of connecting it back to Brennan. When did Brennan know, and when did he discuss with him his degree issue and his resume, his CV being fraudulent? When was that discussed with Hank Brennan? And I'd have brought up the fact that did you find it odd that the prosecutor didn't mention your bachelor's degree? So I think this is really, really highly suspicious. It looks like Brennan was trying to avoid bringing up his bachelor's degree. And that is a huge trust issue and credibility issue the jury would have with the prosecution team.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the phrase academic dishonesty?
Yeah.
So see, he can't even go down that line of how this guy has basically made a career of scamming customers.
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about your work on this case. In October of 2024, the Commonwealth hired you to perform a new data acquisition from the infotainment and telematics system of Ms. Reed's Lexus SUV, correct?
That is correct.
And in your October 10, 2024 report, you outlined a proposal for attempting to extract additional data from the telematics and infotainment modules, correct?
Correct. With the caveat, it's not a report.
So the judge probably shut him off from doing any more line of inquiry on his fraudulent background.
It is a proposed protocol.
So we'll call it a proposal. In that proposal, you explain why, in your opinion, you believed an additional data acquisition was necessary based on your words, education, training, and background.
Hey, that's a good point. Maya Rodriguez is Sorensen, Esquire. Wow, Aperture prepares resume. Has anybody had somebody else prepare their resume? I mean, you may hire a resume builder service or some kind of app to help you formulate your resume, but all the information on there is solely put on by you because Aperture would not know any of his background. You tell me a guy like this would have a secretary? Nobody has secretaries nowadays. He's not some vice president high up there. He would do his own resume. So that there too is a lie. I would argue if I was defense. So
Background, correct?
good point.
That is correct.
You.
And when you prepared your proposal, you had access to the manufacturing specifications of the chips in question, correct?
I did.
You were under no critical deadlines to get the work done, correct?
Correct.
In your initial October 10, 2024 report, you explained that you believed the data acquisition was incomplete because, in your opinion, based on your education, again, your words, training, and experience, the download of the acquisition was less than the chip's storage capacity, correct?
That is correct.
And converting megabytes, B-Y-T-E-S, to megabits, B-I-T-S, and gigabytes to gigabits is a basic digital forensic concept. And that concept's critical to successful data acquisition and analysis. Fair.
So yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, so if we go back to his resume, so let me find that resume. CV. So where he's talking about thousands, hold on. Thousands of litigation, not 1,000, but thousands. So he's been doing this. He says he's been doing it for 10 years in court. Here it says 7 years. So he's got a variance there as well. So do you realize how many times he's testified with a bogus bachelor's degree and it never got exposed? So I'd be wanting to ask him how many times you testified in court in front of a jury or judge. And so basically he's been a fraud on not just on this case, but on multiple cases. It makes it that much worse. Yeah, 10 years. Disaster expert. All right. So anyway, wow. But I think, to Alessi's credit, I think he probably got shut down by the judge, so he couldn't go on to further explain how this guy's been fraudulently representing his credentials to everybody that he's ever worked for in the last 10 years. So yeah, that's really egregious here. But that's who Hank Brennan chose as a star witness here.
In your initial report, you stated that the December 2023 data acquisition was from the Spansion clip, S-P-A-N-S-I-O-N, from the infotainment model was incomplete because the acquisition was only 8 megabytes in size, even though the chip has a storage capacity of 64 megabytes, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol.
I'm sorry. Well, is it proposal or protocol?
Protocol.
Protocol.
It is a protocol.
We'll use protocol. And you blame this on the, quote, programmer's inability to fully read the component, close quote, correct?
Correct.
In point of fact, the manufacturing specifications established that the total flash memory component of the chips in question is equal to 64 megabits, not 64 megabytes, correct?
That is correct.
64 megabits is 8 megabytes, correct?
That is correct.
That means the expansion chip was not incomplete, correct?
Correct.
The acquisition was the same data size.
So he's sloppy on his reporting and testing as well. So
As the total memory storage capacity of the chip, correct?
Correct.
Your protocol for data acquisition was based on a misunderstanding of megabits versus megabytes, correct?
It was based on a working theory and a misinterpretation. Yes.
yes, if you want to send that, go ahead. I don't think we'll have time for it tonight, but maybe I'll bring it up here later in the week. Thank you.
And that
Okay.
was your misinterpretation.
Yes, it was.
You mentioned Ms. Gaffney in your direct testimony. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, I do.
She successfully acquired 8 megabytes of data from that expansion chip during the December 2023 chip off, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that wasn't your only conversion mistake in your October 10, 2024 report, was it?
I'm not aware of any others.
You stated in your report that the data acquisition of the Micron JWB57 was incomplete because the acquisition was only 540 MB in size, but the storage capacity was 4 GB. And that's stated in your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol. Yes,
Protocol.
correct.
The Micron JWB57 chip is 4 gigabits flash memory component, not a 4 gigabyte flash memory component, as you incorrectly stated in your.
Hey, Edo, Ryan, 17 years. Here's the other thing I'm thinking. I think he's been getting away with this bogus degree for so long. Who's really working on his bachelor's for 17 years? I think he just said, enough, I'm passing as a graduate, so why even enroll in any more courses? I don't think he ever intended on taking any of those courses. What do you all think? So why would you take that long? I would like to seen him be asked, how many hour courses are you in right now? What course are you taking right now? What university is it that you're enrolled in right now? And how many hours you've been taking the last year, the last 2 years, those kind of things. So I don't think he's advancing anywhere. Really, 17 years, average that out to how many courses a year that would be.
Protocol.
No, they're not going to be able to reopen stuff, but his work forward definitely is going to be affected.
That is correct.
So contrary to your assertion in the report, 4 gigabits is equal to 50 megabytes, which suggests that all the available data was successfully retrieved from this chip during the first acquisition by Ms. Gaffney, correct?
Correct.
So Ms. Gaffney was not in error on that.
Oh, yeah. So that's what he tried saying on direct, is that Ms. Gaffney, that's a female expert that the defense had to download this data. So right there, he gets caught in another misstatement and wrong conclusion. So contrary to his direct testimony, all the information and available data was successfully retrieved the first time, since the volume of data was the same. So that shows that there was not anything botched by the defense expert, as he tried to claim on direct.
She did not make a mistake on that, correct?
Not on that specific thing. Yes.
Right. It was you that simply misunderstood the difference between gigabits and gigabytes, correct?
Misinterpreted, I would not say misunderstood.
You misinterpreted the difference between gigabits and gigabytes.
Correct. At that
You
time,
got
yes.
that wrong in layperson's terms.
Correct. I did make an error.
You stated in your report that micron, and I'm going to have to give an alphanumeric number because I know in digital forensics it's important to be precise and accurate, so bear with me, sir. You stated in your report that the micron 29F2G08 ABAEA is a 2 gigabyte chip, and that the acquisition should have been 2 gigabytes, but was incomplete because it was only 264 MB in size, correct?
That is correct.
And the micron, and I'm just going to refer back to the number to not repeat it, the long alphanumeric number is a 2 gigabit flash memory component, not a 2 gigabyte flash memory component, as you incorrectly stated in your protocol, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So 2 gigabytes is equal to 250 megabytes, correct?
Correct.
And that suggests that all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition by Ms. Gaffney, correct?
From those chips, yes.
From those chips. Correct. I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Your opinion was again incorrect and was based on a misunderstanding of gigabits and gigabytes, correct?
A misinterpretation, correct.
A misinterpretation in layperson's terms. You got that wrong also.
It was an error, yes.
Wow.
Did you have that protocol peer reviewed, sir?
No, I did not.
Was it peer reviewed
I'm just thinking, compare this guy to Arca.
by anybody at Aperture?
No, it was not.
Did you have a supervisor review that protocol before you filed it with the court?
No, sir.
You submitted your proposal based on your education, background, and experience, correct?
Correct.
Turns out that the entire foundation.
I mean, why doesn't he just say he's a college dropout? I mean, that's really what he is what it sounds like. I don't think he's taken any more courses over the past years. Why would he be motivated to do it? If he's that low motivated to get a degree, especially when he's got to be testifying in court, if everybody believes you have the degree, then why take the extra effort to get the degree?
Of your proposal was based on a fundamental misinterpretation of the difference between a computer bit and a computer byte, correct?
No, not the entire thing. No.
Well, certainly a part of it was, correct, sir?
Correct. Partial.
You got conversions wrong with respect to analyzing 3 different chips, correct?
Correct.
And since you wrote that, have you learned the difference between a bit and a byte?
I've always known the difference between a bit and a byte. Yes.
You learned that in this case from reading the affidavit of an expert for the defense who pointed out those errors before you submitted your supplemental report. Isn't that correct?
I would have to go back and look at the timing on that. I believe I submitted the supplemental before the protocol from the other expert.
Are you certain of that?
I'm not certain of that.
Isn't it the case that the expert for the defense submitted his affidavit before you submitted your supplemental report?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I do not know that.
You don't know one way or another.
Correct.
And that person that I've referred to for the defense is Matthew DeSogra. You know that name?
I do.
And you have read Mr. DeSogra's affidavit in this case, have you not, sir?
I have, yes.
And you would agree that he pointed out these misinterpretations of yours in his affidavit, correct?
Correct.
I would like to go back to your January 30th, 2025 report. May I have a moment, Your Honor, please?
Yes.
Thank
That is
you.
true. That is true. Yeah, what college would allow him to take that long to not make any progress towards degree completion?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. In your January 30th, 2025 report, you know which one I'm referring to, sir?
Yes, I do.
Am I correct that you indicated that at the time of this quote incident, Burla did not offer support for the infotainment and telematics modules removed from the Lexus, but have since released updated software according to similar modules that are supported by in-vehicle acquisition?
That is correct.
And the infotainment module that was removed from Ms. Reed's Lexus is consistent with the MMU, you know what I'm referring to in the MMU?
Right.
Is consistent with the MMU documented by Burla and has been identified as containing an internal micro SD card not acquired during the initial chip-off acquisition by Mrs. Gaffney. You remember that statement, that report, sir?
I do. Yes.
You obtained no additional information from the chips that were already analyzed by Ms. Gaffney, did you?
Correct.
Correct that you obtained no additional information, right?
No data of value from those chips. Yes.
No data of value. So all the data of value Ms. Gaffney had already obtained from those chips, correct?
That's kind of a confusing question. So there was no data of value from those chips to begin with.
Fair enough.
Right.
So Ms. Gaffney didn't miss anything of value.
Correct.
Fair?
Correct.
Do you know how much the Commonwealth has paid Aperture to date for doing the work in this case?
Yes,
I
finally.
did not.
Yeah, that's what I've been wanting. Any of these experts that this clown show has been calling, this Commonwealth has been calling, I wish the defense would be bringing up how much the firms have been charging. So I would just blurt out, because they should get that in discovery. So I just blurt out, your firm's been making $500,000 on this case, haven't they? But I think it's even more than that, because they did buy a Lexus to compare it to Karen. So buying a 21 Lexus like that, it's that's probably like $60,000.
Do you have any involvement at all in knowing what the contract is between Aperture and the Commonwealth?
I do not.
Have you ever had any discussions with any colleagues from Aperture with regard to how much Aperture has been paid in this case?
No, I have not.
Do you have an estimation as to how much Aperture has been paid in this case?
Not off the top of my head. I do not.
You've never had any discussion with anybody at Aperture about the fees Aperture has charged the Commonwealth in this case?
No, I have not.
Who in Aperture is in charge of knowing how much fees Aperture has charged the Commonwealth?
That would be the accounting department.
Would Dr. Judson Welcher know?
Potentially.
Of course he knows. He's a VP.
Your analysis, I want to move on to another category, sir. Your analysis in this case was not strictly limited to data in science, was it?
No, it was strictly limited to data and science.
The Commonwealth requested that you review numerous materials in connection with your analysis in this case, correct?
I did review materials, yes.
You did not review the January 29, 2022 CARS report by, well, let me put it this way. Did you review the January 29, 2022?
Yeah, because he would say, like, I've been working on it. My anticipated graduation is next spring. I'm 6 hours short, something like that. He never said anything about it. So that's why I don't think he's been enrolled for years.
CARS report prepared by Trooper Paul.
No, I did not.
Do you know what a CARS report is?
I do not.
Do you know that a CARS report was prepared by Trooper Paul for this case?
No, I do not.
If there was a collision analysis and reconstruction report prepared by a trooper in that case, would you want to see a document such as that?
SS, I have to disagree with you. I think college credits do expire if you try using those to apply to a different school. And, he didn't clarify he's still going to UAB at all, right? He says he's working towards it, but how do we know it's not a different school? And if you try bringing in any kind of courses from 17 years ago, they could say, well, you're not going to get those transferred here. So, and think of how things have changed in science fields and stuff like that. So maybe a computer science 3 or 4 hour course from 17 years ago wouldn't transfer for a degree now.
No, not for my analysis.
Would somebody at Aperture want to see that document?
Objection.
I'll reword. Are you familiar with collision analysis and reconstruction reports prepared by law enforcement agencies?
I am vaguely familiar, yes.
Vaguely familiar? Have you ever used one in your analysis at all?
I have seen them, yes.
You've seen them. And my question is, seeing them, have you ever read any of them?
Yes, I have read them. Yes.
Have you ever considered a collision analysis and reconstruction report as part of the work that you do at Aperture?
Not specifically a collision analysis report from law enforcement. We do routinely see crash reports, but I think what you're referring to is something else.
Are you aware of a supplemental collision analysis and reconstruction report of Trooper Paul of the Massachusetts State Police dated July 24, 2024?
No, I'm not.
Do you know whether Trooper Paul is part of the Massachusetts State Police reconstruction team?
I do not.
And lastly, do you know whether he's part of the reconstruction team in this case?
I do not.
Did anybody?
No, Kel, not a GX. There's no 21 Lexus you can buy the SUV for $13,000. If it was totaled, maybe, or had been rebuilt, but no, those things are way up there still. And Karen Reed had the biggest Lexus GX model, the 570. That's the biggest V8 engine they make. So those things are probably, when it was new, is probably like $70,000.
Anybody tell you to avoid reviewing a collision analysis and reconstruction report in this case?
No, they did not.
You did, however, review the 2024 testimony of Trooper Nicholas Garino in the proceeding of last year, didn't you?
I did for specific data, yes.
So that's not really science and data,
There you go. Thanks, Java Time.
is it? It's testimony.
Yes, it is testimony.
So you did review materials in this case beyond science and data, correct? You reviewed testimony.
Sure, that is common, yes.
What happened to Hank? Did he run out of the courthouse?
having reviewed Trooper Garino's testimony, you therefore are aware of the theory that he proposed in the first proceeding, correct? It was in his testimony?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
I'm not. So specifically, I reviewed.
I'm telling you, I think the judge is allowing some stuff to come in because there had been some complaints about her. That's the only reason she's allowing stuff like this to sometimes come in, but she's still terribly, terribly biased and terrible in her rulings.
Trooper Garino's testimony for information related to the infotainment and telematics modules.
So did you read all of the testimony?
No, I would have skimmed it.
You would have skimmed the testimony?
Correct.
And how would you, and what would be the purpose to just skim it?
Sure. So I'm only interested in the information related to the infotainment and telematics modules.
So you just, I want to make sure I have this right. So you would skim it, you would look for what you want to focus on, and you, as you sit here today, you don't have any recollection of what the theory of the Commonwealth was in the first proceeding?
Not from that testimony, no.
Do you recall Trooper Garino as part of what you reviewed? So you reviewed certain things of Trooper Garino in his testimony, correct?
Correct.
And in your direct testimony, you testified extensively about the iPhone of John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And you looked at and testified about a lot of information from the phone of John O'Keefe. Is that a fair statement?
Location data.
Location data. Did you read, therefore, Trooper Garino's claim that the last...
Objection.
So why don't I see it side by, find out what's going on?
Sure.
Yeah, I think Hanks realizes when he's in the tank, this is he's getting roasted here. This is so cringy. This is terrible. You got Hank Brennan, who's just comes across as the most confident, sure, know it, can present it. This has got it, all the evidence to back up what he's saying, and everything just continually blows up in his face. And then we have this to top it off. Yeah, so you guys are making different comments about the degree stuff. Yeah, I just think, why would he still go to UAB and stuff? You know, for 17 years he's going to UAB and he works out of Texas. I just, granted, you can do stuff online. I just don't. Yeah. Okay, you worked at a and Kat, you're saying you worked in university and college admissions. You're saying the college credits are going to null and void. Yeah, this is can you imagine seeing this case? I mean, this is real life. It almost seems like it's so out there that it can't be a real case we're watching, right? All right, let me jump ahead here.
bit incongruous, Your Honor, but I
Okay.
can do it if Your Honor would like.
Do we have any idea how much longer it's going to be?
I will go
Right.
check.
Ms. O'Keefe thinks about this train wreck case for the prosecution. Yeah, so Hank's been practicing law for 20 some years and he can't understand that all these objections, all this denial of the truth coming out, he thinks he's still going to win the case. Does he really think Norfolk residents are that stupid?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I will show this to Mr. Brennan first, and then if the court would like to see it, we've got another.
But that's, thank you.
Mr. Brennan. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have this marked as the next exhibit for identification, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
No worries.
Exhibit ZZ, Friday.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, I'm handing you what has been marked as Exhibit ZZ for identification. Ask you to take a moment to look at it, please, when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it. If you could pick your head up, sir, and I'll proceed that time.
Well, it's taking a while here for him.
Okay.
So I'm going to just ask one predicate question and then ask you another question.
Sure.
Does Exhibit ZZ contain, and if you just answer this yes or no, that would be great. Does it contain location, data, information? Okay.
I'll allow that without pursuing it.
That's the only one I have for that purpose.
Okay.
Does it, sir?
Yes, it does.
Did you consider this part of Trooper Garino's testimony in any review that you've done in this case?
No, I did not.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
On December, we're going to move on now to another topic, sir. On December 5th, 2024, Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, you know that name, sir?
Yes, I do.
How do you know that name?
So he is the one who hand delivered the infotainment and telematics module to our office in South Lake.
Exactly. So he delivered the infotainment module containing the SD card that you talked about on direct examination, so that you could attempt to reinstall it in Miss Reed's vehicle for an in-vehicle acquisition attempt, correct?
That was part of it, yes.
That was part of it.
Correct.
That day, you initially attempted an in-vehicle acquisition, meaning you reconnected the infotainment module to the faceplate in Miss Reed's vehicle and reinstalled both the infotainment and the telematics module for an in-vehicle unlock and acquisition, correct?
That was an attempt, yes, on December 7th for clarification.
And that was on December 7th.
Correct.
And that was December 7th of 2024.
Correct.
You conducted this same testing on an exemplar vehicle. And to be clear, exemplar was a vehicle that Aperture had purchased.
Yes, that is a vehicle that Aperture has purchased.
So Aperture purchased it. And it's a vehicle, as I understand, you testified, that's similar to the vehicle of Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And so you call it an exemplar because it's similar to the vehicle in question, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So I'm going to continue using your parlance of exemplar vehicle.
Sure.
And so you conducted this same testing on the exemplar vehicle and successfully reinstalled and tested the infotainment and telematics systems for an in-vehicle unlock and acquisition, correct?
For an in-vehicle acquisition, not for an unlock.
Okay, so for just an in-vehicle acquisition.
Correct.
I appreciate the correction, sir.
No, I haven't, Janice.
But in this case, with Miss Reed's actual Lexus, you were unable to successfully reinstall and test the infotainment and telematic systems, correct?
Correct.
On Miss Reed's Lexus, you were able to get the infotainment backlight and faceplate to illuminate, but in your own words, the infotainment system did not respond as expected, correct?
Correct.
So instead, you took the micro SD card itself and attempted to retrieve data from that card directly, correct?
Correct.
I mean, if you're sitting on the jury, would you trust this guy in anything he says about electronics on a car? One of those motherboard looking things. This guy trying to heat pieces and have them taken off. I wouldn't trust him.
Lexus locks cards in its system, correct?
It does, yes.
If Lexus thought it was appropriate to access those cards, do you know whether or not they would have them unlocked? You know.
I do not know.
Now,
I'm
Oh,
going to
sorry.
let the answers.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to cover a basic question.
I mean, as a prosecutor, you call a guy with fraudulent credentials. I mean, how do you salvage your reputation in front of a jury? I mean, it's already trash. I've been saying, I believe his reputation is completely trash. The jury is so fed up and tired of listening to Brennan. He's just so irritating to listen to. And then you bring up this kind of guy with fraudulent credentials.
Do you have any citation to any scientific literature where specifically what you did on this Lexus model has ever done before? Has it ever been done before, do you know?
No, not on this specific model, which is why we did the exemplar testing.
Right. So there's no.
So exemplar testing is the other Lexus that they bought, same year, same model as Karen's. So Aperture bought it, but they would have passed that cost on to the Commonwealth. So no, they didn't expense that without getting a reimbursement.
No scientific literature that states that the methodology that you used with this Lexus model is an appropriate methodology at all, correct?
There is literature that addresses the methodology in other ways, but not specific to this Lexus, correct?
There's no literature at all stating that the methodology that you used for this Lexus is the appropriate methodology to use for this Lexus model, correct?
There is no literature about this appropriate Lexus model, correct?
So he's just winging it. He's winging it. There's nothing in literature that says this is the way to go about doing it. But he wants to make a name for himself on this case, and boy, has he.
Let's talk about your initial report of January 30th of 2025. You issued your initial analysis and report on January 30th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, he does.
Your report included a general timeline analysis. You used that phrase, timeline analysis, that you stated could impact, quote, event reconstruction. Do I have that right? Your January 30th, 2025 report does not discuss a collision, does it?
No, not in my report, no.
As a matter of fact, your January 30th, 2025 report doesn't even use the word collision, does it?
Correct, because I'm looking at data from the infotainment and telematics module.
But the report of January 30th, 2025 does not even contain the word collision in it, correct?
I believe it does in the background portion, which would be on page 2 or 3, which would just be restating the, if you'd mind if I can look at my report?
Oh, please.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Looks that way.
No, so I apologize. The word that was used was incident.
Right.
Correct.
But you don't use the word collision at all in your January 30th, 2025 report.
That is correct.
I appreciate you checking that, sir. Also, and please keep your report handy.
Sure.
Your January 30th, 2025 report does not in any way detail the timing of what you now call a text stream event at all, correct?
No, it does not.
So in your January 30th, 2025 report, you refer to it as an incident, and in your May 8th report, you refer to it as a text stream event, correct?
That would be referring to two different things.
Right, right. But did you use the parlance text stream event at all in your January 30th, 2025 report?
No, I did not.
But you're using it now, correct?
Correct.
And why do you think that is? What changed between January and the 7th and 8th of May? What's changed? They got information from ARCA, and there's conversations, it looks like, that would have happened with him and Brennan, and maybe Brennan's surrogate, Tully.
We're talking about the same event, right?
Correct.
In fact, your analysis and conclusions were limited in your January 30th, 2025 report to generally identifying a clock skew between Mr. O'Keefe's phone and Miss Reed's infotainment system, correct?
That is correct.
On January 30th, 2025, you engaged in no further analysis to determine whether precisely the 1162.2 text stream event that you now call it occurred, correct?
Correct.
Why not?
I was not asked to at that time. I was just asked to look at the general timeline and consistency of the timestamps.
So back in January 30th, 2025, you were not asked to engage in analysis to determine when precisely the 1162.2 text stream event occurred. Is that fair?
That is fair, and that is based on the common concept that, a lot of cases that we work, there is clock skew, but we do not have events to precisely determine what that clock skew is.
Understood. So wasn't your goal, however, on January 30th, 2025, to determine the correct timeline of events relative to this incident? Wasn't that your goal?
It was my goal to determine the data from the infotainment and telematics modules that were missed in the initial download, and create a timeline and consistency of those timestamps.
So your goal was to create a timeline, correct?
Correct.
And that timeline, among other uses, was to be for your colleague, Dr. Judson Welcher, to use that in his analysis, correct?
That is correct.
So you knew not only what your purpose was, but you knew what your work was going to be used for by Dr. Welcher, your colleague, correct?
Well, I knew it was going to be provided. Yes.
Well, you knew it was going to be provided. Have you ever talked to Judson Welcher, your colleague, about this case at all?
I have vaguely, yes.
How many times have you talked to him?
I would count a handful of times.
And just give me a general idea of the nature of the discussions between you and Dr. Welcher. You're both working on the same, quote, incident, right?
Sure. Yes.
What would have been the nature of those discussions?
So those discussions would have been identifying what I found on the infotainment and telematics modules, and discussing, explaining that data to Dr. Welcher.
So did Dr. Welcher ever tell you, your colleague, why he wanted to use that data for his purposes?
For reconstructing a timeline.
And for reconstructing a timeline and picking a time for what you now call a text stream event, correct? You knew that's what he was doing.
Correct, for a timeline, yes.
Right, so you knew that for the 1162.2 text stream event, he was going to use your analysis back in January of 2025 to try to pinpoint that text stream event 1162.2, correct?
That is correct.
You knew that.
Yes.
And you know that he used that data to select a specific range for that text stream 1162.2 text stream event, correct?
I don't know if select would be the right. I understand what you're saying. Yes.
What term would you use?
Sure. So based on the data, he's identifying the time approximately when that event would have occurred.
And that text stream event, that 1162.2, is what Aperture is contending is a time of a collision. Is that correct?
That's sustained on that. Ask it differently, Mr. Ness.
Do you know the purpose of the 1162.2 text stream event in the analysis performed by your firm?
No, Dr. Welcher, I do not.
So you performed your analysis in all these timelines that you talked about on direct without knowing what Dr. Welcher was going to do with that data?
No, so sorry, I misspoke. So it would be to timeline the time and date, or to put a time and date with when that text stream trigger would have occurred.
Exactly.
Right.
So you knew what the purpose was of your work.
Correct.
With regard to Dr. Welcher's work.
Correct.
And isn't Dr. Welcher's work on the 1162.1 and the 1162.2 text stream event an important aspect of the work of Aperture in this case?
Yes, it is.
Did anybody from the Commonwealth ask you in your January 30th, 2025 report to not discuss your work in connection with the text stream 1162.1 and the 1162.2 events?
No.
But you didn't discuss that, meaning the 1162.1 and 1162.2 events, in your first report in January 30th, did you?
That was not part of my report, correct.
But you did delve into that, and pretty heavily, in your May 8th report, correct?
Correct.
And you delved into that pretty heavily in the middle of this trial, correct?
Correct.
So after the trial, you know the trial started around April.
This is great, folks, and it's 2 to midnight here. So I want to. Well, we're not going to be able to get through the whole next hour here. So, but let's look at this here.
22nd in this case?
Yes,
Generally?
yes, generally.
So let's do the timeline on this. January 30th, 2025, you prepare your initial report, correct?
Correct.
In that initial report, you mentioned nothing about text stream event 1162.1, correct?
Correct.
In that report, you mentioned nothing about text stream event
Right. So where's he getting this information from?
1162.2, correct?
Correct.
The trial
Who's feeding him this information that he needs to correct? Let's take a guess.
starts April 22nd, correct?
Correct.
Roughly.
Generally.
No, the trial in this case, this trial, about April 22nd. After the trial starts and after witnesses, of course, are appearing, you prepare another report, correct?
Correct.
And that's your May 8th report,
Correct.
right in the middle of this trial.
Correct.
And right in the middle of this trial, you enlarge the number for the 21 to 29 range. That's bigger than what was in your first report, correct?
That's because that was requested by Hank Brennan, no doubt.
No, that is not correct.
Well, you changed the number, don't you?
No, I did not change the number.
Well, let's go back to see exactly what you did, sir.
Sure.
Didn't change the number. Wow.
Let's start with the basics. You said on direct examination, sir, that you prepared your May 8th report on your own. Those were your words on your direct testimony, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to read the first line of your May 8th, 2025 report.
Okay.
Do you have it in front of you, sir?
I do. Yes.
It starts, Dear Mr. Brennan. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Pursuant to your request. That's the request you're referring to of Mr. Brennan, correct?
Correct.
I have completed an additional analysis concerning the above referenced matter. To formulate opinions, the following additional items were reviewed. This wasn't done on your initiative. You put in writing you did it at the request of Mr. Brennan. Which is it?
So that was on my own initiative. This is a holdover, so a copy and paste from my original report.
You're explaining the May 8th report in your language pursuant to your request as a cut and paste from a previous report?
Yes, I am.
Do you cut and paste important information from one report to the other without checking it for accuracy?
I copy and paste certain portions.
Do you ever review what you cut and paste to see if it's accurate?
Yes.
You didn't review it this time, though, did you, sir?
No, I did not think it was significant.
Oh, you don't think it's significant, sir, that the matter is in the middle of a trial and there's a request for a new report after testimony has occurred in that trial? You don't think that's important?
Objection.
Sustained.
Of course you sustain it. It shows his motives. Impeachment of motives.
Why did you prepare the new report then?
Sure. So there was a claim from a PowerPoint presentation by Mr. DeSogra of trying to adjust clock syncs or making clock adjustments based on the synchronization of certain events. That was produced in March. Upon reviewing that, my initial thoughts were to address that in testimony. But as I was preparing for trial, I made the decision that it needed to be better addressed in a supplemental report.
Oh.
But
okay.
you understand that the report that you're referring to, that's the report of Mr. Soger, correct?
It is a presentation of Mr. DeSogra.
It's
Correct.
a presentation. You understand his presentation merely was responding to the work that you did, correct?
No, that's not correct.
So your belief is that Mr. DeSoger's report didn't address at all what you had done?
Partially, yes, but no.
Okay, but let's cover the basics. You
Sure.
agree that Mr. DeSogra addressed, at least in part, the work that you had done.
He tried to address, yes.
Right. So do you know the date of Mr. DeSogra's report as March 5th? Does that sound right to you?
Yes, that's what
So
I said.
you had Mr. DeSogra's report that you claim was the basis for you on your own in the middle of this trial, creating and submitting a new report. You claim that the basis for that was Mr. DeSogra's report of March 5th of 2025.
That is correct.
You waited 2 months to do that?
Again, my initial thoughts were to address it on testimony.
It's not your thoughts, just did you wait 2 months?
Just let him finish the answer.
My question, sir, finish it how you'd like.
Sure. So
2 months, was it 2 months between March 5th and when you submitted your report on May 8th? Was that 2 months?
yes, it is.
So did you know when this trial was going to start, sir? Generally?
Yes.
Do you think it's fair to submit a report without anybody asking you in the middle of a trial?
Sustain.
As we've been discussing, you issued a brand new report, in this case dated May 8th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
That changed your analysis, correct?
No, it did not change my analysis.
Were there changes to your analysis in it?
There were clarifications.
This is so terrible for this guy to say there's clarifications. There was absolutely changes, absolutely 100% changes. For him to spin it like this,
Clarifications.
unreal.
Let's address that. In your January 30th, 2025 report, you did not mention tech stream event at all, did you?
No, I did not.
And you didn't mention collision at all, correct?
No, I did not.
And you mentioned both of those now in your May 8th, 2025 report, correct?
I don't know if I mentioned collision. I'd have to go to my report and look.
But you certainly do mention tech stream events, correct?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
you labeled them 1162.1 and 1162.2, correct?
Correct.
That's a change from your first report, isn't it, sir?
No, it's not a change. It's a supplement.
Oh, so your definition is that when you add something to a report, it's not a change, it's a supplement?
That is what it is, yes.
Yeah, I said that Walmart.
Who did you speak to regarding the May 8th, 2025 report before you prepared it?
And no one before I prepared it.
So you just prepared it on your own?
Wow.
I did.
Wow. Yeah, right. You just had this sudden idea to change the timeline to coincide with Whiffen.
Did you have any communications at all? I asked you who you spoke with, but did you have any communications at all with either Detective Lieutenant Tully or Buchanan?
So I did reach out to Tully to get a full set of the location data, yes.
So you reached out to Detective Tully before you prepared your May 8th report, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Did he tell you that the trial had started in this case?
No, not during that conversation, no.
That's not the first communication you had with Detective Tully, was it?
No, it's not.
How many conversations have you had with Detective Tully?
I would say a handful.
How much is a handful?
Yeah, I would be speculating, but we'll say 5 to 10.
5 to 10.
Two handfuls.
Is Detective Tully expert at all in digital forensics?
No,
But you've had 5 to 10 conversations with him.
correct. To get provided information.
At any time, has anybody from the Commonwealth had a discussion with you relative to your January 30th, 2025 report or your May 8th, 2025 report about keeping flexible the timelines for any events in this case?
No, sir.
Did you have any discussions at all regarding the May 8th, 2025 report you prepared in the middle of this trial with anyone from the district attorney's office?
Yes.
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 When did you have those
Here it
discussions?
That would have been on, probably May 7th when I reached out to Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
So you reached out to Mr.
Probably May 7th when I reached out to Mr.
May
Brennan.
7th. So Brennan knew about this May 7th. Keep in mind, that was the deadline that ARCA had to submit their supplemental. What's he doing? The first thing he's doing is calling this guy up.
So you reached out to Mr. Brennan on May 7th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
That's before May 8th of 2025, correct?
Correct.
So before you sent that report in, you had a discussion with Mr. Brennan about it, am I correct?
Correct.
What was that discussion about?
That was just a discussion over the data and what the report said.
So you were discussing with Mr. Brennan what was going to be in your report, including data and analysis, correct?
Correct.
Right there. He's busted. Brennan wanted this report, and Brennan acts surprised to the judge. So there's your gotcha moment. Unbelievable.
Did you tell Mr. Brennan that you were going to be submitting the report shortly to him on May 8th?
Yes.
Did you agree to a time when you would submit that report?
No, I did not.
Did you tell him when you were going to submit it?
No, I did not.
But
Yeah, you
after the
did.
conversation on May 7th,
He probably said, I need this thing right away. Get it to me as soon as you can.
you discussed with him that you had either pretty close to finalize the report. It's a pretty extensive report, right?
Correct.
So on May 7th, you were pretty well along the way in that report, correct?
Correct.
Did you let Mr. Brennan know that?
Yes.
So he knew the nature of the report. He knew how far along we were with it.
Correct.
Did you have any other calls with any?
No surprise, folks. That's what I've been saying. Hank's tactics are out in the open now. The truth is going to continue to unravel. When you're a trial attorney like this guy, Brennan, this is the kind of stuff that's going to come crashing on your head. He's not going to come out. He's not going to come out ahead of the game doing it this way. So, and he thought he's got a sure winner because the judge is totally in his camp. She might as well be his boss cheering him on. That's basically what's going on here, folks. So, but yeah, so think about it. If we didn't have this horrendous person as a judge, we would have had an acquittal, full acquittal last go around, because we wouldn't have that cop on the jury acting as a law enforcement officer expert telling him to disregard everything the defense had to say. And so this one here, wow, talk about a case just out the gate, just continually doing a nosedive. It's an inferno. It's burning up right before our eyes. So you can't have that kind of actions by a prosecutor hiding the truth, hiding the ball, as I've been saying, and expect to come out unscathed. So this is what happens when you hide the ball. You're not being transparent and honest. You're not looking for the truth. You're looking for hired guns. You're going to get fraud. You're basically peddling fraud in front of a jury. And by peddling fraud in front of a jury, then you're using fraud to convict somebody. If you have to resort to fraud to convict Karen Reed, shame on you. This is an absolute disgrace. So unless this jury, which we hear is younger and they're under 40, unless they are completely checked out and they have no critical thinking skills, I mean, this is a slam dunk, no-brainer acquittal across the board. So, yeah, the whole trial, this whole thing is set up as a fraud. Imagine all the fraud this jury's seeing right before their eyes. We've seen it here just through video screens, but they're seeing it live. These people are live before them. They're mere feet away from them. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you're in criminal law for any short length of time, you'll rapidly see that it's shocking the ability of people to lie, even though no, they will be sending somebody innocent down the river. People have no conscience about it. It's pretty unbelievable, the stuff you see. I just hope this jury has a conscience and critical thinking skills. Yeah, so I'm like I say, even if Karen Reed was guilty, let's say she's guilty of hitting him, she's certainly not guilty of second-degree murder, right? And then you have to resort to these kind of underhanded tactics of bringing all these liars and trying to orchestrate all these kind of maneuvers behind the scenes to get this kind of crap propped up in court. And it's all just crashing before you. Anyway, I'm just going to jump ahead here. There's like an hour or 45 minutes left. I'm not going to be able to keep on here. We got to get to start of the next day here. We're already into the next day. Look at the very end here. That's where there's that signaling going on. I don't think I have the times. It's 6:59, I think, right here. Here we go. Watch this.
Got an agreement of sorts with Mr. Brennan. Could I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Look at the judge.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
I'm going to show you what are 2 pages out of the report of Mr. Whiffen that you referenced, and we've been discussing about pocket state.
Sure.
And this one here, if you just read this line, because it's the heading, and then the next page, and tell me, sir, with reference to this entry right here, if that refreshes your recollection with regard to a column of pocket state with regard to the phone of Mr.
There we go.
and whether it refreshes your recollection
Is that a
on
signal?
any comments Mr. Whiffen made about pocket
What's
state.
that?
Objection.
Look at her
I'm going
laughing.
to see it side by for 2 minutes. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I got my phone on the keypad.
You learned that in this case
What's going
from
on?
reading.
This is stand by. Hold on. I'll get there in seconds. Forgive me.
I've always known the difference.
Okay, 6:59. That's right.
of Mr. Whiffen that you referenced, and we've been discussing about pocket state.
Sure.
And this one here, if you just read this line, because it's the heading, and then the next page, election on
Right there it is.
to a column of pocket state with regard to the
She's
phone of
looking at Hank.
Mr. and whether it refreshes
Right there.
your
She's
recollection
rubbing her
on
cheek.
any comments Mr. Whiffen made about pocket state.
Objection.
And she
I'm
smiles.
gonna
Was
see
that
it's
some
hard
kind of
for 2
code?
minutes on this. Okay.
Was that some kind of code to get him to stop? Because hey, we want this trial to end. That looks very suspicious to me. What do you all think? That's what it looks like to me. A signal. Yep. Code talk. Yep. She's doing it right in front of the cameras there. All right, I'll play it again here. Watch this.
With regard to a column of pocket state with regard to the phone of Mr. and whether it refreshes your recollection
Right
on
there.
any comments Mr. Whiffen made about pocket state.
Objection.
I'm going to see it's hard back for 2 minutes on this. Okay.
Yep, and then what happens?
Thought maybe we'd get a few more minutes, but I understand. Into this case.
Yep,
if
and
you
they end
want
it.
to just,
That's what she wanted. She wanted to end, and that was the code.
Jurors,
An
this seems like
objection.
a good place
There
to
you have it, folks.
We thought maybe we'd get a few more minutes, but I
Yeah,
understand.
just like Hank shaking his head on the board diary. Exactly.
Same questions.
That's exactly what's going on. There's code talk going on between the prosecution and the judge. And is that anything surprising from what we've seen of her rulings? You're right. It wasn't just a smile, it was a laugh. The fix is in. That's what's going on here, guys. Yeah, if they don't come back within 2 or 3 hours, then I really question their ability to have critical thinking. Yeah, you guys think it's a signal too. All right, I'll play it one more time.
Please do not discuss the good place to.
I'm going to see it.
The phone of Mr. You can, the heading, and then the next.
Yeah.
Whiffen
Okay,
that
there's
you
the
referenced,
clock. Look at here's
and we've been discussing about pocket state.
Sure.
And this one here, if you just read this line, because it's the heading, and then the next page, and tell me, sir.
it's 3:50.
with
It's 10 minutes
reference
till.
to this,
Sure.
and this one here,
See down
just-
there on the Boston 25, it says 340. There's 349. That jumps to 350. It's right here. It's 350 their time, local
that you referenced,
3:50 p.m.
and we've been discussing about pocket state.
Sure.
And this one here, if you just read this line, because it's the heading, and then the next page, and tell me, sir, with
There we go.
reference to this entry right here.
Instead of me interrupting, I'll just send a
you
code
can, if
to
that
Hank
refreshes your
Brennan.
recollection with regard to a column of pocket state
Sign. Say, okay,
with
this
regard
belongs
to the
to over
phone
to
of
Hank.
Mr. and whether it refreshes your recollection on any comments Mr. Whiffen made about pocket
Give it
state.
a little bit of smirk.
I'm going to see it's hard back for 2 minutes on this. Okay.
Yep. This thing sort of acting out. We didn't hear the objection, but anyway, there you have it, folks. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off tonight. Thanks, you guys have been great. This was the best day yet for the Karen Reed team, and I hope to cover again tomorrow night after seeing more of this train wreck disaster by the Commonwealth. So y'all be safe, take care.